You are listening to the Love and Money podcast, and today I'm going to talk to you about what is going on with the stock market as it relates to a specific stock, AT&T. So this is what is lately in the news. They are talking about AT&T, and what has happened is that the stock has dropped towards an 11-year low. So in 11 years, this is the lowest that it has been. However, the dividend yield has risen above 8%. So it has a very high dividend. And for people who are not in the stock market, who are not familiar with what a dividend is, when you get into the stock market, when you start buying shares of stock, it means that you are a owner of that business now, a part of that business now. And so, as a result of being a part owner, they will pay you very, very tiny, small percentages. And that payment that you receive is called a dividend. And so, if you're not familiar with the stock market, people who are in the stock market, they are receiving these payments, otherwise known as dividends, for simply holding the stock. And so, a lot of people are not familiar with this because it's not taught in school. On the other hand, some people grow up in households where they teach their children to buy stocks, and they are buying stocks at 5 years old, 6 years old, 7 years old. However, other people do not grow up in households like that. So, just wanted to go over uh, what a dividend is. And if you're not in the stock market, I would encourage you to get into the stock market, learn about it, find out about it, and start collecting your dividends. Okay, so AT&T it has a dividend yield that is above 8%. It is the second highest yielding stock in the S&P 500, and this is below Lumen Technologies. So AT&T is known to give high yields as it pertains to dividends. So what some people do is they buy AT&T just as a part of a collection of all the other things that they own, and they just hold on it forever, and they're collecting dividends like their entire life. They're collecting dividends just because you hold this one stock. And so this is what people are doing. AT&T is the second highest when it comes to yielding dividends as far as stock goes in the S&P 500. So the reason why AT&T was in the news is because the stock market has been in all red lately, meaning that it has not been performing well. It's lower than normal, and AT&T in particular, they noticed a drop in this particular stock. And like I said before, it dropped toward an 11-year low. So it's the lowest it's been in 11 years. So it made the headlines. AT&T. However, the dividend yield is still good. They are still paying shareholders. They're still paying people who own shares. Um, Dividend yield is uh, above 8%. And there was the AT&T stock sell-off. And this is the reason for this sell-off is there are growing investor concerns over competition with cable companies. So anytime individuals hear things and they start to get concerned and they start selling their stocks, it's called panic selling. And so a result of panic selling is that you'll see this drop in the stock because you need a lot of people in it buying it in order for the price to rise. And so a big sell-off is happening with AT&T, causing the stock to drop, causing it to drop to an all-time low since we've seen in 11 years, and causing AT&T to be in the headlines. And so this is what is going on in the stock market. AT&T has a show as of today. However, like I said before, anyone who still owns AT&T, they are still collecting their dividends as usual. And so what people usually do, people who are experienced long-term investors, what they usually do is they just stay in the stock market, whether it's performing well or whether it's not performing well, because when there is a drop, they are buying things on sale. They're buying the dip, and then the stock market eventually will recover. So the people who stay in it will eventually receive gains, but the people who panic sell, that's how they lose their money. And so that's how the stock market works. It goes in cycles, it goes up and down, up and down, up and down. And people who are experienced long term investors, they're in it for the long haul. So they're not short term, they're long term. Long term investors, they're in it for the long haul. And so this is what is going on in the stock market. So if you're not in, I recommend that you learn about it. Keep in mind, I'm not a financial advisor. I don't give financial advice. This is for educational, informational purposes only. And this is what is going on with the stock market. Um, just know that people generally do not rely on one thing. They're not just relying on the stock market, they are diversifying. It's always better to diversifying into other things besides the stock market, real estate, owning your own businesses, side hustles. In the event that if one thing collapses, that you would still have these other things going on, that you're not dependent on one thing. Like people generally are not depending on one thing, they are diversifying. And then that is the way that you protect yourself. And we're learning that and we're seeing that more and more after living through a pandemic, that it's not a good idea just to rely on one income source. For example, if you are a 9 to 5er, they could come sweep that rug under you whenever they get ready. And so you don't want to put yourself in a position like that. You want to be working on your other sources, your investing, your real estate, your creating your own businesses, developing your side hustles, even developing skills, other skills that you're interested in besides what your training may be in. So, developing high skills is important. If education is important. You hear a lot of people talking negatively about education. However, education is important. And if you're not the type of person who is interested in education, then getting a skill is important. Something, electrician or a operating engineer, something like that. If you're not into education, getting a skill is important. So just diversifying, making sure you're getting into several different things, not just one thing. And then that is the way that you protect yourself. So, this is the Love and Money podcast with Shakira. If you like this podcast, please share it with one other person. Please hit the like and subscribe button, and please leave a comment. Thank you for listening.